Perhaps you don't need another complex system for life. Perhaps what you need is deeper rest. For many years, my path has been to share insights with countless people seeking clarity. And this work begins by embracing a simple, often overlooked truth. For example, a profound insight for you. 8 hours of deep sleep and a quiet walk in nature each day can resolve more of your inner turmoil than any elaborate external method. This arises from a common human pattern. We assume that if a feeling is intensely difficult, its solution must be equally complex. This feels logical, as complex challenges often are difficult. But many difficult things are, in their essence, quite simple. Consider ending a connection with someone. The action is not complex. You simply express, "This is no longer my path," yet the emotional weight can feel immense. And what often happens is, faced with these emotionally heavy but simple actions, we construct complexity. We imagine there must be an elaborate, multi-step process, a secret understanding of human dynamics that, if mastered, will somehow soften the pain of parting ways with someone you hold dear. But this is rarely the case, and you can observe this pattern widely. You see people navigating profound emotional challenges, and they seek out intricate solutions. They want the extensive workshop, the multi-day retreat, when truly, the path often begins with finding genuine rest. In far-reaching studies of human well-being, they examined every kind of support for a troubled mind, from medicines to various therapies to meditation. Do you know what emerged as a powerful foundation? Movement. Indeed, one of the most effective ways to quiet the mind is freely available to you, always. It is the simple practice of stepping outside and walking for a while. So, before you rush toward a sophisticated new technique or an elaborate protocol, first ensure you are honoring the fundamentals. Here is another perspective for you. If you do not consciously choose what is important in your life, the world will quietly choose it for you. Imagine for a moment that you are a garden, and within this garden are the things you deeply value. If you leave areas of this garden untended, a void is created, and the world, with its winds and random seeds, will quickly arrive to fill that space with its own priorities. So, if you don't decide what truly matters to you, you will feel a constant pressure, a steady pull to care about the things the world deems important. The most challenging part is that when you absorb the values of the world around you, you often don't even notice they are not your own. The things that hold your attention, the paths you follow, the goals you invest in, they aren't truly what your heart values. Then, one day, you may awaken and realize you have spent your existence tending someone else's garden, that every drop of your energy has gone towards seeking approval and admiration from others. And who are these others, in the end? Why does their opinion hold such weight? And you might ask, why did I take that demanding career path? What am I truly doing with this life? And a quiet voice might whisper, maybe it's time to find a simpler way of being. To find your own way, you must cultivate the inner stillness to be with the feeling of being disliked. This is how you find freedom from the prison of others' expectations. Eventually, you may realize it is better to be misunderstood for who you truly are than to be celebrated for a version of yourself that is not genuine. There is a story from 1967 about Muhammad Ali, who was the world's champion boxer. He was called to join the Vietnam War, and he declined. What followed was immense societal pressure upon him to abandon his conviction and fight a war that many others were fighting. Yet, he stood firm. His title was taken from him. He was forbidden from boxing. His license was revoked, and he even faced imprisonment. The profound lesson in his story is this: your values are not truly shown in what you pursue. They are revealed in what you are willing to let go of. If you are not prepared to release something, to stand against the current of society for what you know to be true, do you genuinely hold that value? The very definition of holding a value, the definition of who you are, is determined by what you are willing to sacrifice for. What are you willing to face friction and disapproval for? If the answer is nothing, then perhaps the seeds in your garden were not planted by you. Now, Many people deeply dislike this friction. They avoid the discord. They shy away from being disliked or challenged in any manner. And so, they simply go with the flow of the current, and they end up where the river takes them, not where they intended to go. You must therefore develop the capacity to be with disapproval in order to solidify your own inner compass. Because here is another profound truth. If saying no and standing on your own ground brings you a sense of guilt, then it's likely that at some point in your life, you were guided to overlook your own needs. You see, what happens for many of us when we are young is that we aren't encouraged to stand for what matters to us. We are guided to align with what matters to everyone else. And when we aren't supported in honoring our inner truth, when we experience that friction with those around us, we never build that inner fortitude. We never develop the skill of being willing to make a sacrifice for something sacred. Now, if you are one of these people who has walked far into life without ever learning how to stand firmly for something, begin with gentleness. Find the small currents, the gentle points of resistance. Think of it as a muscle of inner strength. Just as you would not enter a gym and attempt to lift the heaviest weight on your first day, you would not try to face a great conviction on your first attempt. It could be as simple as declining an offer you do not wish to accept. It could be as simple as not carrying the responsibility for another's emotions or challenges. It could be letting go of an invitation or sharing with someone that you don't truly enjoy an activity they assume you do. When you begin with these small, mindful steps, it is helpful for several reasons. 1. It is simply more gentle than saying no to the great, difficult things. But 2, something transformative occurs. You expect a great wave of pushback from the world. But a funny thing happens. No one is as concerned with your path as you are. So what usually happens is that there is no great wave, and you realize that moving in your own direction is much simpler than you ever believed possible. In fact, what I often notice in people when they begin to honor themselves for the first time is they have this feeling of, why did I not do this a decade ago? I could have spared myself so much inner conflict. It is usually not until the second or third or fourth gentle no that the world might present a small current of conflict, and at that point it is manageable because you are already so much further along your own path than where you began. If these ideas about finding your own current resonate with you, I invite you to join our community of fellow travelers on this path. Subscribing to this channel is a simple way to continue this journey of awareness together. Most people are not truly stuck because their life's river is too turbulent. They are stuck because the distractions on the shore feel safer than navigating the current. Now, these distractions are problematic in 2 ways. The first is that they pull your attention away from this essential inner work. They lead you down countless other streams of thought. Oh, look at this. Or perhaps if I just read one more book, it will teach me something new. But the second and more profound issue is that they obscure what you should be focused on. You may have a clear, deep sense of what you wish to do, what you want to cultivate. But then you read many books, watch many videos, and attend a seminar, and suddenly 5 other possibilities are presented, pulling your attention in all directions. And that is just as problematic as the fact that you may have just spent a week not cultivating the one seed you truly wanted to grow. The most subtle aspect of distractions is that, these days, there is a very fine line between what is a distraction and what is growth. Much of what appears as productivity is simply a way to avoid the quiet work. One thing I often say is that gathering more information is a common way the clever mind avoids action. It is a preferred method for avoiding the inevitable friction, for sidestepping the practice of those small, conscious no's. It is easier to simply immerse your mind in another teaching, another process. But here is the other aspect. Our digital world constantly tells us to do everything, to be everywhere, all at once, be all things to all people. Yet, if you look at the nature of reality, if you observe what profound wisdom says about mental and spiritual well-being, It advises, focus on doing one or two things with great care. Do them in one place, consistently, with a small group of kindred spirits, over a long period of time. This is almost the exact opposite of everything our modern culture promotes. This is why clearing away distractions is such a vital component of discovering what truly nourishes your soul. Let's return to my little garden metaphor. Let's say this is your inner world. These are the things you value, or you think you value, but you're not entirely sure. And there is much empty space here. And the world is constantly at work. It is sending a storm of distractions and fleeting pleasures. A constant storm, day and night. The importance of clearing these distractions is that it creates enough inner silence for you to decide what you truly wish to plant. It allows you to dig deep and ask yourself, if no one knew what I was working on, if no one was aware that I valued this, if I were on a secluded island with access to all the resources I have today, is this the seed I would choose to nurture? Are these the connections I would pay attention to? These are vital questions to ask yourself, and you will not receive a clear answer until you can effectively quiet the outer noise. The other thing that happens when you eliminate the distractions is you begin to notice the things you naturally stop caring about. Suddenly, that concern you thought was so vital, when you're no longer exposed to some digital feed, it no longer feels important. That one cause or social group that you thought was such a huge part of your life, you spend a week or two in stillness and you realize, you know what, I don't miss them, and I believe I am more at peace without them. It becomes a way of discovering which of the seeds in your garden were yours to begin with and which of them were simply carried in by the wind. Now, clearly, everything we are speaking of can feel daunting. There is a certain amount of fear intertwined with it. But here is another profound truth. Both confidence and fear require you to believe in a future that has not yet occurred, and at a certain point, you simply have to realize that you are choosing the fear. Our minds are magnificent storytellers. Our minds take our past experiences. We weave narratives around them, and then we use these stories to anticipate what might happen next. Both anxiety and confidence are simply stories about the future that we have composed in our minds. Let's say I have a large gathering to speak at with 3,000 people. I can contemplate this, and I can bring forth a narrative of all the dreadful things that could happen, all the ways I could falter on the stage. Perhaps I trip and it is seen by thousands, and this can fill me with terror. Or I can choose the narrative that leads to a calm confidence. I can prepare my words, become very clear about the message I wish to share, and develop a deep trust in my ability to offer something of value. Both of these narratives are completely composed within my own mind. They are both formed from nothing but thought, yet I can train myself to believe in one story more than the other. Now, the interesting thing is that the underlying feeling remains the same. The feeling is just one of uncertainty. It's a general energy of what is going to happen, and this is a common misunderstanding. In fact, if you look at studies of athletes who perform exceptionally well under pressure versus those who crumble, there's not a difference in the amount of anxiety they feel. Both the successful athletes and those who struggle experience the same level of stress. The only difference is that the athletes who perform well believe in a narrative where they will rise to the occasion, while the athletes who believe they will falter are the ones who actually do. Now, this kind of inner narrative stewardship is itself a skill, and if we come from a background with much trauma and stress, where many people have hurt us in the past, it makes perfect sense that our default story would be, oh, if I stand up for myself or if I express my truth, then I will be rejected and no one will appreciate me. It makes sense that this would generate a great deal of fear and that you would feel deep anxiety around it. But again, this is the emotional current of what we just discussed. Growth requires facing failure in the same way that gaining physical strength requires enduring discomfort. You must allow yourself to be broken down a little to grow back slightly stronger each and every time. You see, there is a fascinating way the mind perceives failure that is interesting and also completely inaccurate. If you think about someone who has an unhealthy relationship with failure, let's say they have a goal. The goal is up here, and they are starting down here. The person with an unhealthy view of failure thinks, I will reach for the goal, and if I fail, I will fall all the way back down, and it will be a catastrophe. This is not an accurate picture. It is not what happens at all. Someone with a healthy relationship with failure understands that you reach for the goal, something will not go as planned, and you will stumble. But you will stumble to a higher place than where you started, because you will have learned things. You will have gained experience. You will have met certain people. You will have moved through the initial tremors of even trying in the first place. So when you make a second attempt, you are starting from a stronger foundation. And then something else will go wrong. But you are still, once again, further along. And then let's say, finally you arrive. All of life is like this. It's like climbing a mountain. No path just goes straight up. The path is a journey of ups and downs. And so, even though it may feel like failure will be devastating and will leave you in a worse place than when you began, the truth is that you will land in a slightly better place. And you simply have to be with enough of these stumbles to condition this understanding into yourself. Because ultimately, the only difference between a person who succeeds and a person who doesn't is that the successful person has simply tolerated more stumbles over a longer journey. The most resilient person you know has felt all the same fear, the same doubt, the same insecurity that you do. They have just learned how to act in the presence of it. This, again, is the greatest misconception when it comes to creating meaningful things in the world. You don't eliminate the anxiety. You don't get rid of the self-doubt. You just cultivate the ability to move forward while they are present. Abraham Lincoln navigated a profound depression his entire life. He was widely disliked and judged during his time as a leader. He would sometimes be unable to leave his bed for days at a time, and he wrote in his journals that he would be the greatest failure in his nation's history, that he would be the reason his country collapsed. Deep, profound insecurities. The only difference between him and perhaps yourself is that he moved through so many of these challenges on his path that he was feeling these great insecurities about leading a nation, while you might still be feeling insecure about taking the first step. The thing to understand is that this is what growth actually looks like. Growth is not about getting rid of the self-doubt. It is not about banishing the fear. It is simply being fearful of bigger, more meaningful things. It's doubting yourself in the face of greater and greater opportunities for service. Because happiness is not an absence of problems. Happiness is having better problems. Success is having better failures. Self-discipline is, in a way, having better focus. So you don't truly get rid of the struggle. You simply learn to elevate it. If you feel called to commit to this journey of inner growth and authentic living, then I invite you to subscribe. It serves as a quiet reminder to yourself that this path, your path, truly matters. I wish you well.